Hi, my name is Stacy Hsueh. Today I'll be talking about our paper, What Counts as Creative Work, articulating 4 epistemic positions in creativity-oriented HCI research. There's an inextricable relationship between creativity and technology. Computational techniques such as computer graphics, computational simulation, artificial intelligence, and parametric modeling have been used to support the process of creation. Take parametric design, for example, which uses algorithms to create complex geometries. They have also enabled new forms of creative expression, constituting the artwork itself. Take Anna Riddler and David Fow's prevailing, for example, which uses AI to generate short moving images of tulips. There's been many computing research areas interested in creativity, from computer-aided design to creativity support tools to creative AI and more. While the terminologies may differ, these strands of research share similar goals of leveraging computing to enhance and advance creative work. Now, tools encode different ideas about what constitutes work. They make assumptions about how a process unfolds and make certain ways of working easier than others. Take something as simple as word processing software. We see, for example, Microsoft Word that assumes a structured, planner-like process of writing that starts with breaking down the writing project into subsections, which are named and subsequently self-contained. Contrast that with a tool like Scrivener that adopts a different metaphor in which the process unfolds through working directly with the materials at hand, such as notes and research, arranging and rearranging until the structures of the piece slowly emerges. In the context of programming, Sherry Turkle has referred to these 2 distinct modes of working as planner versus bricklayer. As we can see, what counts as work is a matter of definition. Continuing the writing example, the work of researching and gathering notes may not be considered as writing proper from the perspective of Microsoft Word. Writing refers to the filling in of content separate from brainstorming and thinking. But from Scrivener's perspective, writing begins as soon as research begins. HCI researchers have long been interested in definitions of creativity. Definitions can help us define a research problem. We often hear statements like the goal of creative technology is to make more people more creative more often. But we have surprisingly few analytical tools to help us articulate what creative really means here. Without precise definitions, we risk overclaiming computing's role in supporting creativity. This paper addresses this gap. However, instead of seeking to come up with a single unifying definition, we take a feminist epistemological approach to defining creative work. What that means is we consider definitions to be value laden. They are the result of historical processes and represent different epistemological styles. So in this paper, we synthesize the sprawling theoretical threads that underpin current creativity-oriented HCI research into 4 classes of definitions. We call them epistemic positions. And by making them legible, we are better equipped to probe the trade-offs of these definitions. A major category of creativity theories focuses on problem-solving processes. This perspective suggests that creativity follows systematic, logical, and rational processes, much like a computer searching all possible combinations. According to this view of creativity, practitioners are systems thinkers. The creative process begins when a problem has occurred. This view, therefore, requires the practitioner to define the problem in terms of models and procedures in advance to reach final solution. The problem-solving view puts forward the idea that complex design problems can be algorithmically solved if decomposed in the right way. This view has produced tools that use computational models to help search the design space. Some examples are layout design for web pages and generative design. While this lens has been influential in inspiring the design of computer-supported tools, its application scope is restricted to practices that can be formulated in terms of problems, such as architecture and layout design. The ambition of this perspective is to show that most or all creative processes can be formulated in terms of problem representation, search space, and steps. This view has served as a basis for much of the magical rhetoric around the ability of AI systems to perform traditionally human tasks. The manner in which the final piece is achieved does not matter so long as the resulting product can be considered as creative by a human. This risks deletion of essential but often invisible work, such as those that rely on a network or support staff. The cognitive emergence view rests on the idea that creative insights emerge from complex underlying cognitive processes. These processes are often mapped to distinct stages of the creative process. For example, associative thinking, or the ability to make free associations, is often linked to the middle incubation and illumination stages of the creative process, whereas analytic thinking, or the ability to evaluate ideas, takes place at the beginning and the end of the process. Creative work in this view is a result of alternating generative divergent processes and the analytic convergent processes. Tools that are inspired by this approach focus on augmenting and supporting ideation. They promote techniques for brainstorming, free association, and lateral thinking. Common formation is one such tool. It supports brainstorming by automatically searching the web for content relating to a search term and displays them on the document. Whereas problem solving limits the scope of creative practices to design for, this view limits the scope of the process to brainstorming and ideation phases. The cognitive emergence view sees creative work in terms of cognitive processes. It rests on the idea that creative insights emerge from the interplay of processes that are often mapped to distinct stages of the creative process, such as the four-stage model by Wallace. Boundaries of software and HCI often correspond to the different stages. So for example, tools for ideation are often distinct from tools for implementation, which lacking the capability to seamlessly transfer data between them. One consequence of such a framing is that the typically nonlinear creative process gets structured treatment, separated out into distinct stages, with one stage handing off neatly into the next. In reality, stages in a creative process often blend into each other, overlap, or sometimes skipped over. The shape of each person's workflow is likely highly specific to personal habits, situational contexts, and work styles. The embodied action view of the creative process highlights the ineffable nature of much creative work. Hsueh calls this reflective practice. It focuses on the importance of physical action in the world to aid thought. From this perspective, the practitioner engages in a conversation with the materials of the situation. For example, instead of thinking through a particular design problem, the designer works through it by sketching on paper or building prototypes. These concrete interactions with the world provide elements of surprise and uncertainty that stimulate further reflections and actions. One of the implications of such a view on creative work is that it relies much on Polanyi's tacit knowledge, where we can know more than we can tell. Hsueh gave an example of this tacit knowledge at work when a musician plays a musical instrument. Research practices that are influenced by this view are informed by the notion of external representation of ideas in physical objects and its importance in a creative process. For example, Final Scratch is a system that lets users manipulate digital music via vinyl records. Final Scratch is often preferred by DJs over CD players with buttons because digital controls do not provide the sensory richness or the nuance of manipulation offered by the physical device. To correct the limits of universalism seen in problem-solving and emergence views, the embodied action view provides descriptive accounts of different contexts and practices, painting a rich and nuanced picture of creative work. It has given rise to a set of sensitizing concepts. However, in the process of distilling operationalizable insights for design from thick descriptions, messiness gets tamed and the richness of a particular setting gets abstracted away. So this is often referred to as the politics of translation, the process by which one representational scheme, such as ethnographic insights, get transformed into a different representational scheme, such as design insights. This is not a problem per se, as design knowledge is fundamentally distinct from insights derived from empirical understanding. It does, however, highlight the need for frameworks that will equip researchers with the tools to answer questions of when or where a concept is appropriate. Finally, we have the tool-mediated expert activity view. This view understands the creative process in terms of the activities most commonly observed in real-world creative practices. Creative work here is often mediated by tools. Tools support people in performing different creative tasks. Some of these tasks include exploration and implementation. Creative work then is about the use of technology for creative aims to achieve expertise. Adopting this view suggests that the primary concern of designers of creative tools should be supporting meaningful activities in creative contexts. Many HCI researchers developing creative tools align with this view. It includes a host of projects developing tools supporting wide-ranging creative practices, from music composition to graphic design to choreography. Taking a tool-centric perspective, this view sets out to support people in their diverse modes of expression. These approaches often delineate a set of common activities, such as drawing, music composition, etc., or a group of recognized creative practitioners like graphic designers or composers, to which the tool should address. When taken to its conceptual extreme in practice, this view tends to see creative activities as stable and uniform across individual practices. It lacks the analytical precision to grapple with diverse practices within pre-established categories. As we have shown, each epistemic position models a distinct worldview which produces a grammar that makes certain discourses and modes of thought easier. This paper addresses the feminist epistemological question: what is the connection between knowledge and politics? By elucidating these positions, we underscore the importance of explicitly contextualizing the values and the politics that drive current creative computing research and design. We argue that our field can benefit from engaging critically with these worldviews at work. As a starting point for discussion, we propose that we can begin by developing reflexive practices in claims making, interrogating institutional valorization of different views of creativity, and staging encounters through counter methodologies. In this work, we adopt a feminist epistemology lens to define the notoriously slippery idea of creative work. Our goal is to clarify and sharpen various meanings of creativity we see latent in computing narratives and leverage them in interrogating our values as designers and computing researchers. We believe that with this framework, we are better positioned to elucidate the strengths of computation without overclaiming its capacity. Thank you for listening.